This is why they say, I think a lot of arm wrestlers, they don't even make it 1 year. Because 1 month of training like a moron at arm wrestling, I got a pain right here in my arm that sounds, pretty whippy for me to say, but I went to the doctors. I went to ER. I was almost in tears where I thought something was seriously wrong with my arm. And it lasted for months. Like, I try to work out, so I'm like, forget arm wrestling, it ain't worth it.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people actually go through that because you do get microfractures in your bones.
It's terrible.
A lot of people might think they have a broken bone or
I
something,
didn't know what was wrong.
Something serious.
So I was 34 when I did that, and then 2 years goes by. I never arm wrestled again. And then I saw somewhere on Facebook or somewhere that Michael Todd is like UAL champion. I'm like, no way.
I beat that guy.
Yeah, he's the champ.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I got to get back into arm wrestling. So I went back. I contacted the same Hit Squad guys. And then I was only there, and instead of arm wrestling for like an hour, I like 10 minutes. I'm like, that's enough for today. And then I found videos. Devin Lard had some old videos back then that some ways to train for arm wrestling. So, I don't think the super heavy full range curl was the way to go. I started training smarter, but about a year goes by with training and arm wrestling all the time, and I was just too sore still. Like, arm wrestling gets you so sore, especially your first year. So I decided to back off table time. That's not what most people would do.
Right.
But for me, it helped. And then in 1 year, I won the UAL championship when I became like number one and like basically best amateur in the country. It was in Chicago, UAL 6. And then a year later, 2015, I just won the Massachusetts State, my first state championship, Open Pro. And then I started getting my edge. And I ended up going all the way to, took 6 in the whole region for WAL. There was 25 Northern U.S. state champions. I was the Illinois state champion. And I took 6 there behind Matt Mask, Devin Lard, Marcio Barboza, and I was
elite class of people.
Yep, so I was pretty happy. I made it to ESPN. That was probably one of my highlights of my career.
Yeah.
I pulled there. I was on TV for half a second getting beat by some guy from Denmark. But, it was pretty cool. I had to cut the 225 for that. And then shortly after that, I got my first injury. But that's how I got into it. And I've never not loved it.
Yeah.
But I had to learn how to train for me because, you got to learn how your body responds. And everybody responds different. And,
completely different, yeah.
You got to stay injury free. That's the key.